Now, the World Cup has reached the quarterfinal stage. There are just 8 nations left in the tournament. There's no football today, Wednesday, and no football on Thursday. The quarterfinals resume on Friday when Croatia play Brazil and the Netherlands play Argentina. And then on Saturday, Morocco, who had a fantastic result against Spain, play Portugal, who had an equally good result against, or maybe better, against Switzerland. And England play France in a game that everyone will savour. It's a great pleasure now for the stand to welcome John Giles and Liam Brady to discuss what we've seen so far and what we're likely to see. Liam, it was a great day yesterday, and generally I feel it's been a really, really fascinating tournament with lots of good football, and we've learned a bit, particularly Morocco's performance against Spain.
Well, we called it before the game. I think John and I, Eamon, that
yes.
It was going to be tight. It was predictable how it would pan out. Spain had most of the play. They've got very good midfield players. Spain, they keep the ball well, but they lacked a threat up front. I know they scored 7 goals in the first game against Costa Rica, but they've never really been convincing. In the last third of the field, Morata doesn't. He doesn't do it for me. He's not at that level. He doesn't function. When you think, years gone by, you had David Villa and Fernando Torres up front for Spain when they were winning all these trophies. It's a young team, Spain, but unless they find a striker who's going to knock in the goals, I think they'll always, be bridesmaids. They won't return to winning ways.
No. John, Morocco, very athletic, very well organised, didn't have a lot of real quality up front, but they were always they looked fitter and they looked unafraid, if I could put it that way.
Well, we certainly weren't afraid, Eamon.
Yeah.
And we did see them in one or two of the other rounds, and they looked very, very good. But you would have thought before the tournament, playing Spain, they wouldn't have much of a chance. But they deserve to win, Eamon. We know teams play and they get a bit lucky break, a few lucky break. But that wasn't the case. It was a good performance. The keeper, Bono, was brilliant for the penalties. Like watching the game, you would think, Spain were Morocco and the other way around.
Yeah.
They dominated the game. They won. They did all the things well. They were, as you say, they were fit. They were ready to go and had the confidence to go on and do it. Amazing. Again, one of the smaller countries, or the less football countries,
yes,
coming good in the major competition.
Yes, and for Luis Enrique, the Spanish coach, it would have been a blow, but he took it very well. He's a remarkable man, but he does it his way. He picks his team, and he's not afraid to leave big names out. And speaking of leaving big names out, Liam, Fernando Santos, that coach of Portugal, he's an old wise head. He was the coach for a long time now. He was the coach in 2016 when they won the European Championship, and he dropped Ronaldo, which caused a big stir, because Ronaldo was taken off in the previous game after 65 minutes as a tactical substitution, and he made it very clear that he didn't appreciate that. And the manager obviously said, well, sod you, I'm the manager, I make the calls. And he put in Gonzalo Ramos, a young lad from Benfica who's 21 years of age. Tell us what happened next, Liam.
Well, the kid just revelled in it, didn't he? He's in a very good team, Eamon.
Yes.
You got Bernardo Silva, you got Fernandes, João Felix in midfield.
Yes.
Carvalho midfield. They're a good all-round team, Portugal. Very technical players. And I actually thought Ronaldo was having a half-decent tournament, but, when he was substituted, he wasn't very respectful to the coach, as you say, Eamon, and the coach showed his mettle,
yes.
And he must see this kid in training, this Ramos in training.
Yes.
He must think, well, I've got to unleash this kid, and he was absolutely brilliant, like a hat trick, and His first goal was tremendous.
Yeah.
Near post, smashed it in with power. Nobody expected that. But the other two were well taken goals as well. Like he dinked it over the goalkeeper, one. But with that team, Eamon, like with Felix and with Fernandes and with Silva, they're going to make chances for the strikers.
Yes.
A very, very good team. And, they're, looking at them, you wouldn't say they're miles behind France or miles behind England and they're in that side of the draw. I think they'll take Morocco simply because they've had, not simply because, but they've had an easier run of things. They were able to rest players in that third game against Switzerland. They were coasting after the first half, really. So, whereas Morocco had a very, very hard game against Spain. So, I would fancy Portugal strong to get into the semi-finals.
Right, John. When you take a player like Ronaldo out of a team, it actually frees up the way you play. Hasn't that been... Well, you tell me, but I'll ask the question and then you tell me what you think. When you have a player like Ronaldo, he's 37, he was still the top scorer at Man U last year, 21 goals. But Manchester United have had to, because they want to play a pressing game, they want more running, basically. And with Portugal, the same thing applies. The coach obviously wanted to change it up, to up the tempo, and to not have everything go through Ronaldo or his team to be set up to create chances for Ronaldo. He wanted a freedom. And it often works when you take a big player like that out. And it works quite a bit for United in recent weeks. Would you have made the decision? Would you agree that it can actually help all the players in the team?
Well, I would agree with something you say, Eamon. But Ronaldo's been a special player for years and years.
Yes.
His approach to the game hasn't changed in any way.
Yes.
He's older, Eamon.
Yes.
He can't do what he does the way he used to do.
Yeah.
Nobody can. And he's what is he, 37 now? He's a miracle guy. And Ronaldo has always been Ronaldo in the way that he's behaved. It's always been about himself.
Yeah.
It's always been in a selfish way, but ultimately good for the team.
Yeah.
Because of the goals he scored. But if he's not scoring the goals and he's not doing what the manager wants him to do, he hasn't changed. I mean, the manager and him have had apparently have had a very, very good relationship for 15, 16 years, right? And the manager now is doing his job as he sees it. And I think most people would agree with that.
When Ronaldo was taken off in the previous game, it was with still 25 minutes to go. He threw a strop and he wasn't respectful to Santos. And I think a manager has to say, I'm the manager, pal. You may be a great player, but I run this show.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Eamon. I'm not disputing that.
No,
but you have to understand what Ronaldo is.
Yes.
And has been. The attitude that he showed to the manager, and he showed now, and things are going against him and he's getting old, have been the attitude that he's had for years and years that's made him the great player.
Yes.
In my opinion, I'm only giving you my opinion on it now. Ronaldo is I'd say he's one of the most selfish guys in the world. And because of his selfishness, and he's a striker, it's made him one of the best players in the world.
Yes.
Now that he hasn't got it anymore in the way that he had it, he doesn't see that.
Yes.
He's saying, look at all the things I've done for you. Look at all the things I've done. And we all know in football, what's gone is gone. And today is what matters. In most things of life anyway. So he's fallen out with the manager. The manager had to do it, Eamon, I think. Right.
Liam, at your former club, Juventus, when Ronaldo left, I saw Chiellini and the other big central defender, they both came out and said that actually, when he left, it helped the team because of, I think for the reasons I said, the team was set up to suit him. And also at Manchester United, it seems it didn't harm the team. And this is not to say that Ronaldo hasn't been a fantastic player, one of the greatest in history. And I saw more in that Portuguese performance yesterday than I'd seen with Ronaldo in the team over the last few years, actually.
Well, we've had a good look at Portugal, haven't we, over the last few seasons? They've been in the same group as Ireland, Eamon.
Yeah.
He's, as John described it really, really well, it's all about himself, And when he was substituted in that match, I think it was against Cameroon. No, it wasn't against Cameroon. It was against, it might have been against, I can't remember now. There's so many games. But it was the third game. They'd already qualified top of the group, so the result really didn't matter to Portugal.
Yeah.
But when Ronaldo was substituted, he was thinking, no, he should leave me on because I want to get another goal. I want to show people what I can do, And I think the coach, as rightly said, no, the emphasis is on the team. It's not on you, it's on the team. And that's why he made that decision. And I think that was the same at Juventus. It was the same as Manchester United. The coach wanted to get back to what the club is all about, is the team.
Yes.
Everybody's treated equally,
Yeah.
But he wants to be treated differently. But as John says, that's what made him this goal-scoring machine down through the years. You never know. He still might have a contribution to make, Eamon.
Absolutely, yeah.
He came on last night. Things seemed to be good. He celebrated with all his teammates when the goals were scored. And we've seen him be stroppy in those situations before. I think at Manchester United he was asked to go on and he refused to go on as a substitute. So I was getting annoyed last night watching the match because all they wanted to talk about was Ronaldo. Yes. I was here watching it in England, and I'm sure John was doing the same. And Tilsley, the commentator, he kept bringing it back to Ronaldo instead of talking about some of the players we were witnessing and playing brilliantly,
Yes.
But go back to Portugal, and let's talk about them and first, forget about Park Ronaldo for a minute.
Right.
We'll see what develops there, but I don't think the coach will be putting them in the team against in the next match against Morocco.
Yeah, I apologise for doing the same thing as ITV and BBC. John, just let's talk.
Well, it's a big story. I mean, it's a big story.
It is a big
Ronaldo.
Story, yeah.
But I just say something about him. And when you talk about the Italian lads, when he left, he said he was free to go. If I'm not mistaken, they won the Italian league at least 3 times on the bounce when he was there, didn't they?
Well, Liam would know. I don't think they did.
Yes, they did. They did, John. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, you know what I mean, Eamon?
I do, yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying this is a simple decision at all. I'm saying it's quite a complex decision.
I'm only saying, I mean, we don't know Ronaldo, but I'd say he wouldn't be the most popular guy in the dressing room with everybody. And with the Italian lads, because it's all about himself. But if he's helping to win the title 3 times on the bounce, I think it's a bit off.
Okay.
For the experienced players to say, well, we're glad he's gone because we don't like him or his attitude or whatever it was. But he does it on the pitch. He's done it on the pitch over the years, Eamon. And what's happening with Ronaldo? He's not accepting, in my opinion, that he's getting old.
Yeah, well,
he thinks he's the young Ronaldo of 20 years, 10, 15 years ago. And that's gone, and there has to be hard decisions. Not for him, but if you look back over the years in the history of the game, Eamon, there's some players, great players that we know of, that were treated very, very badly and were very cruelly treated in many ways. And I think that's the way Ronaldo sees himself now. Eamon.
Yeah. Okay. I just thought. No, you're right. I mean, one other thing I just put to both of you. I think the Portugal I saw last night, it freed up Fernandes. It freed up Bernardo Silva. This kid who came in, Ramos. He got a hat-trick. He looked happy, confident. And sometimes the presence, I'll put this to Liam, sometimes the presence of a great forward like Ronaldo, a great star who gets goals, can actually overshadow you.
Yeah, you can be conditioned playing with that kind of guy. You can
That's the word. Yes.
You could be looking to pass it to him rather than give the right pass. Do you know what I mean?
I do indeed.
He expects it. He expects that kind of service. But as John said it, we all got old in our careers, and it's the managers. It's got to make serious decisions, But I still think he might. I still think he might have a role to play.
Well, you'd want him in the penalty.
You'd
want him in the penalty shootout, that's for sure, because he's not bad at that. Let's go on then to the next quarterfinal. Both of these quarterfinals, the Netherlands-Argentina and Croatia-Brazil, are on Friday. Portugal play Morocco on Saturday, and of course England play France on Saturday. We'll come to that. Croatia, John. We're all great admirers, I think, of Luka Modric. They took him off, actually, before the penalty shootout. They took him off after 10 minutes of extra time. He looked knackered in the game against Korea, and maybe that was a match. He's 37. He's been absolutely brilliant all season for Real Madrid and so far in the World Cup. Very hard for him to keep going at the rate he's going, isn't it?
Well, especially against Japan, Eamon.
Yeah, Japan. That's
their attitude and pace in which they play is extraordinary.
Yes,
and they're absolutely brilliant again. I mean, Croatia did well to go to extra time, in my opinion, and then they collapsed on the penalties. As we know, I mean, they'll have to practice the penalties. But in a game against Japan, the likes of Modric, who is getting on a bit, as we know, one of the greats, is bound to be affected. I mean, I think the managers did well to leave him off. Yeah. And then the rest of the lads did well for them. Croatia have a great attitude, but Japan were fantastic again.
Yes.
It was good to see Modric through to the next round. As you say there, Eamon, he's bound to get tired in some of these matches if they're going the way the Japan match went. Yeah. But he's still there.
I want to ask you, John and Liam. I'll ask you first, John, about Brazil. And I just put my own tuppence worth in because I tipped Brazil before it started, and I kind of still fancied them. But what did you think of the goal celebrations to which Tite, the coach, came and joined for one of them? But more importantly, of their overall performance. I mean, a brilliant start. But what did you make of their overall performance the other night?
I thought they went out to show off, Eamon.
Yes.
That was my first impression when certain things happened, even the goals through celebrating the goals, which is fair enough. But I thought they were there to I don't think it was professional in the way that they behaved themselves during the match.
Yes, or respectful to Korea, their opponents.
Respectful to anybody.
Yes.
It was like Neymar was back, which is fair enough. They scored the goals that they did. South Korea were went there.
They were knackered, John, too. They'd played 72 hours earlier.
Yeah, they played a lot. Brazil played well, and they scored the goals, but I thought a bit too show-offy instead of being professional in what they were doing. So we'll just have to wait and see if that's going to go for them or against them.
Liam, Roy Keane had a go at Brazil. Gary Neville didn't. They were I think they were working for BBC at the time. I saw them. Keane, in particular, didn't like the celebrations. I ask that only because I'm not mad about it either, but that's Brazil. That's the way they are. There's a joy in the game, and they feel that joy. What did you make of the celebrations in particular, and then the performance overall?
I really didn't pay much attention to the celebrations, Eamon. I was watching them play, and they're very, very good. And it's like you say, it's Brazil. They celebrate that way. They want to entertain, and that's what they do. A little bit disrespectful, probably, yeah, but, they get carried away with themselves. They did that in '82 as well, if you can cast your mind back to that great team of Socrates, Zico, and Junior, Falcao. They thought it was only a formality that they just had to turn up and were going to win the cup. But the same in '98 when they got beat in the final against France.
Yep.
All three of us were doing that on RTE, and that's what they're about. But I thought they were very impressive, Eamon. They look very, very good. They look very strong.
Right.
we're going to talk about them winning the cup, they've every chance, every chance.
Yeah.
They've got young players up front, they've got pace, they've got speed. Richarlison is playing well up front, scored again. Midfielder, Picata, West Ham, I thought he was very good. Casemiro, we all know well. And in defence, they're very, very solid with a brilliant goalkeeper. So I think, I agree with you. They look the team that are favourites to win this competition. And maybe it's the only thing that's going to cost them if they get overconfident.
Right. John, I largely agree with Liam. I'm not as confident as he is that they'll win it now. I thought Neymar contributed nothing the other night.
No, he's coming back from injury, Eamon. He did okay. He did okay. And he's that type of player, Eamon. On certain days he can be absolutely brilliant. He didn't have to be brilliant the other day to win the match. I mean, South Korea, collapsed. Which the occasion was too much for them, Eamon, I thought. And they got a hiding in Brazil that was made for Brazil. As far as Neymar's concerned, we know there's on certain days, Eamon, he can be brilliant.
Yes.
We know that. He can do that. So he didn't do it the other day. He did okay. But in one of the games, he might turn it on. He's capable of doing it, but you never know with him.
No,
you never know.
He's a diver. He's no Lionel Messi, is he?
Oh, no. Well, who is, Eamon? Like we talk about Ronaldo and Messi, there's nobody been like them for the last 15 years.
Or more. Richarlison, John, he has played well in the World Cup. I still would share your reservations about him because of memories of him at Everton in particular. But he is a key player for them now. And he is scoring. And the other kid who I think is really interesting is Vinicius Jr., who plays wide on the left and looks like he could develop into a really top player. And he gets goals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's very good, Eamon. But Richarlison, I must say, at Everton, I thought he was hopeless, Eamon.
Yeah.
I just wondered why they bought him. But since he went to Spurs, Conte has made him a different player altogether. He's actually a player now, Eamon.
Yes.
A really good player and valuable player to Spurs when we saw him play there, but particularly for Brazil now. I mean, I can understand why anybody paid the money for him with the player he is now, not with the player he was at Everton.
Right.
And good luck to him. Good luck to Brazil because he's doing the job for them and he's doing it in a big way.
Yeah, I first noticed him at Watford, actually, and I thought he was a real top player. But that was only, of course, the Championship was a team that was promoted. Liam, the big match that everyone is looking forward to, particularly where you two lads are, is England and France. And I'd like to ask you your view on this game. Let's look at England in particular, Liam. Has he got it right, Southgate? He has been, I think, a good England coach, maybe very conservative, a bit too conservative for my liking. And there are players, but he's got them to the final of the European Championships and the semi-final of the World Cup last time out. Are you happy with the team he's picking, and do you give them a serious chance against France?
Oh, I give them a serious chance against France. And you can't say he's done a lot wrong with picking the team. What I will say is I don't think they've really played a good team yet,
Yes.
Wales were very poor. They won the first match by 6,
Iran.
Iran, 6. And they were poor against the United States. I thought they were very, very poor against the United States. And they were poor in the first half against Wales. They were kind of poor in the first 30 minutes against Senegal, and Senegal had a couple of half chances. But once they get going, they look a very good team, particularly going forward. They've got an abundance of talent up front. They've got Harry Kane leads the line, links up play very well.
Yes.
He's made some goals. He got a great goal himself in the last game. Saka is playing really well. Foden, I think, has been a better alternative than Mason Mount coming into the team.
Right.
So I know Sterling's had some personal problems, but I think Foden gives you more all round than any of those two players I mentioned.
Bellingham, Liam. He's the player now there.
Bellingham, yeah, we talked about him the other day. He's all action. He's all over the place. He's not the playmaker. He'll be expected to do a lot defensively against France, maybe for the first time in the competition. He'll have to work his socks off to help the full backs in particular, and the same with Henderson. If Mbappe gets the ball against Walker and Dembele gets the ball against Shaw, they've both got tremendous pace, so England are going to have to do something there to help the full backs, I think.
Right.
So it's very much a game in the balance. In England in midfield, I don't think France are anything brilliant in midfield. We talked about Griezmann the other day. It'd be important for England to shut him down because he's the main supply to Mbappe and Giroud. Fascinating game, England, France. It's very difficult to call.
Yeah.
Whereas Brazil, Croatia, I would say Brazil. Portugal, Morocco, I would say Portugal without any hesitation. Netherlands, Argentina, I suppose we'll finish up with. But France and England, I can't really divide them, Eamon.
Right. John, France and England and Bellingham, because I know we've been talking during the English matches, and I know you have reservations, not about Bellingham's ability as such, but about the way he's used by Gareth Southgate.
Well, I think it happens, Eamon, when a young player comes in and plays well and the press go bananas on it, to be honest. Yeah. I think he's a very, very gifted lad, but I don't think he's the player yet that some people are making him out to be.
Right.
But that happens in the big tournament, in probably in every country, but England particularly, to pick on somebody. He's a very gifted lad. He's very young. He's got a lot going for him. But I saw Brian Robson did an article this morning in the paper, and he said 7 attributes needed, and he's talking about Bellingham in this particular way, 7 attributes. One of the attributes he never mentioned, and I keep going on about an awful lot, is positional sense on the pitch.
Yes.
I don't think the young fella, he's only 19, has any positional sense on the pitch, particularly if he's going to be a midfield player.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? At the moment, he doesn't look like an out-and-out midfield player to me. He looks like a goal-scoring player, going forward ahead of the ball most of the time.
Yep.
When, as a midfield player, he could be back getting in a position and reading the game in a certain way. Now, he's only 19, but I think the press go, and a lot of people go overboard with young players. I think he's very talented. He's 19. He's a lot to learn about playing in the middle of the field. And hopefully he will as he gets a bit older, because, I keep on about positional sense, and people probably say, what the hell is this all about now? But positional sense is the main thing, is particularly in the middle of the field, to make the ball come to you. I mean, in other words, if you stand on the centre spot of the pitch and don't move, you get X amount of possession of the ball.
Yep.
Now, as a midfield player, you're a midfield player, Liam is a midfield player, you have to get in positions to receive the ball.
You have to make yourself available,
all the time.
All the time,
Now, obviously you can't do it all the time, but the midfield players in that I see as a midfield player is somebody, a kid like this, has to learn to link the back to the front.
Yeah, I don't think he's that kind of player, John.
Pardon?
I don't think he's that kind of player. I don't think he'll ever be that kind of player. I think we've said this before. I don't want to cover old ground. He's more like Gerrard. We used to say the same things about Steven Gerrard, and to a lesser extent, but still in the same sort of vein.
Frank Lampard was the same.
Yes.
But they got older, Eamon, and they did hold the positions in the positions they were in.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if Gerrard was mostly on the right hand side of midfield.
Yeah.
He was never never in the middle of the field. But he held his position in that position.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and he made himself available, which is the thing.
Made himself available. The point I would make with Gerrard, he didn't go all over the field to dominate the game, and run the game.
Yes.
When it came to him, he came to him. Well, what I see with this kid, he's not playing either right side or left side of midfield. Well, anytime I see him when the defence had the ball, he was way in front of them. I mean, you couldn't find him.
And sometimes he was in front of Harry Kane, because Harry's coming very deep to pick up balls, both for Spurs and for England, which I think is good.
If he's going to be that type of player, fair enough. But with the ability that he has, that I see in him, I don't want him to be dictating it as much more than he is. Now, he's only a young fella, he's only 19. Yeah. Hopefully that'll be the case. But it's like anything else, you know, like when the player comes along, the papers they're not going to refuse in-game and they're bumming him up a bit.
Right.
But he's a good kid. I think he's a good kid, and he should be a top-class player. But from England's point of view, again, my doubt, I think I said it the other day in your programme, Eamon, Griezmann, as I see him now, is by far and away the best player, the best man to do the job in midfield in these two teams.
Yes.
So he could be very, very, very important in this match if he's getting the ball out to Mbappe and doing it. So I don't think England have anybody in the middle of the field capable of doing what Griezmann is capable of doing in the running of the game.
And has done. And the other midfield player for France, Rabiot, is a waste of space, to be honest, at this level. So that's going to be a very tight game, a tough game to call. We just, finally, Liam, the Netherlands and Argentina. Argentina have looked not great. They lost their first match to Saudi Arabia. Messi has bailed them out and has looked more alive in the last two games. What do you make of this match, Liam, and who do you fancy?
I fancy the Netherlands. I think they've got better as the tournament's gone on. They've got a very good defence with Ake and Virgil van Dijk playing really well. They've got Dumfries, a full-back who's tremendous, bombs forward. In the middle of the park, not brilliant, but they got Memphis Depay, and they've got this Gakpo who's really come strong into the competition as well. Whereas I think they've got a lot of good players, whereas Argentina, also Mendy playing at the back. It's years ago we were critical of him.
Man City.
He's that much older. Messi, he's walking. It's just moments of brilliance now.
Yes.
So they're so dependent on him, and the others I don't think are up to be the supporting cast he needs.
Yes.
So that tips it for me in the favour of the Dutch.
Okay, John, Argentina, and I think Liam made a very interesting point there, very accurately identified the supporting cast that Messi needs. I mean, we all adore him and admire him and realise what a great player he is, even still. But he does a bit of walking, all right. But he is invested in this tournament. You can see his emotions. But you can't do it on your own, can you?
No, and I don't think he's surrounded by top players as you would expect from Argentina in the past. And we've seen from Argentina in the past. And I didn't think they played well against the Aussies, Eamon.
I didn't actually, no.
He scored a good goal to get them going, and then the goalkeeper made a bad mistake. I don't think they were, Aussies were well in the game. They were well in the game. It wasn't the Argentinian Messi of old. It just depends if he can turn on the magic, Eamon, for them. But I'd be like, I think both of you, I think the Netherlands would be a better bet.
Yeah, funny if I don't. I think Argentina will do them, but that's another day's work. We don't pay money to listen to my views anymore. Now, a final thought to both of you, and it is a final thought. On the tournament overall, I think whenever we've spoken about it, we've enjoyed it and think it's really good. I just want to say that I've enjoyed it and think it's really, really good. And the small nations like the Japanese, small in footballing terms, that is, Morocco, have been really thrilling to see how good the game is now and how deep it is. Would you agree with that, Liam?
Absolutely, Eamon. Yeah, I think the tournament so far, and I hope nothing goes wrong because the Qataris don't deserve it. to go wrong. They put on a fine tournament. I think the stadiums have been great. They look brilliant. The atmosphere. I think the refereeing has been excellent.
It has, yeah.
There's been no trouble, Eamon, with hooliganism and so forth, and just shows you that alcohol, maybe you've got to think long and hard. We saw what happened at Euros when England were hosting the finals. There was terrible trouble. And as you say, the emergence of these, so-called no-hopers in the tournament, like Morocco, like Japan, like Korea, Tunisia beating France.
Yes.
It's been a brilliant story, and I suppose FIFA's message has been, to bring football to the lesser parts of the world, and I think this is proof of their work. They've really, these nations have really come on and made themselves very, very difficult, and in many cases, I'm sure, like in Japan and South Korea, it was probably that their group stages had to go all the way. That when they came into the last 16 matches, they were much more tired than the other teams. So. No, I think all in all, it's been a huge success, and it was a political minefield before we kicked off. But I think everybody can be satisfied with this tournament. I know probably, without going into it too deeply, that should never have gone there in the first place, and that what an organisation FIFA have been down through the years. But I have to say, it's been a very, very well, I wouldn't say a good tournament. I say it's been an excellent tournament.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, John. Just to remind both of you, by the way, our old friend Pepe, who's now 39, and we remember kicking shit out of everybody. John, he scored a great goal last night, an important goal as well from a corner. Yeah. But would you agree with Liam and I about how encouraging it is to see these new nations and to see the development of the game, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in Africa, North Africa, in the case of Morocco? It's delightful.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It shows where the game is going, Eamon. Every 4 years, it's an examination of where the game is at. And this was a very, very controversial situation, as we know, with the World Cup being where it is. But once it came to the football, Eamon, then it's been brilliant. Yes. The football saved it. I know that there's a lot of controversy, and still a lot of controversy about how it got to where it is and the possessions. But we'd have to say, when it came to the football, which is the most important thing as far as an awful lot of people are concerned, it's been very good, and it's been so far on the pitch great for the game.
Okay, John, Giles and Liam Brady, thank you both very much for joining us.